And that was Bran Van 3000 with Drinking in LA on Central Coast Radio. I didn't need much of an excuse to play that song because I absolutely love that song. But the reason that we played it is because it is off the Aftersun soundtrack, which is actually the film that we're going to take a look at right now. So Kyle has jumped into the studio. Welcome, mate.
Hey David, how you doing?
I'm
Hello
going
everybody.
I'm going well. So now we're going to take a look at this new movie, Aftersun, which of course has got an Oscar nomination for its lead actor, Paul Mescal, who plays Callum in this film. Now, the film itself is directed and written by Charlotte Wells, and it follows this interesting story of this young girl, Sophie, played by Frankie Carrillo, and her father, Callum, played by Paul Mescal. Now, Callum is a very young dad. There are times during this film when they're on their holiday in Turkey and he gets mistaken for her brother. But that's not where this story ends because this holiday, Sophie very, very quickly starts to realize is well, not at that time. I should rephrase that. The older Sophie, looking back at this, who is played by Celia Rowlands, she actually starts to learn that this was the last time that she was going to go away with her father. Callum, it seems, has planned this holiday as a way to kind of say goodbye to Sophie and to spend some quality time with her because he's going through some pretty severe depression that's not always visible to everybody else watching on. Now, like I said, mate, this is a pretty serious film. Tell us your thoughts on what you thought about Aftersun.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's a very interesting little film. For one thing, usually films that tackle the kind of subject matter that Aftersun tackles, they're usually a lot more overly dramatic, a lot more theatrical. And Aftersun has a very realistic take on the whole thing. Like watching it, you can tell that Charlotte Wells based this movie largely on her own upbringing and her own relationship with her father and their vacations. So what was originally going to be very much a work of fiction quickly became a much more of a almost autobiographical picture. And so you can tell there's a really quite a an honest approach to the entire thing that I really appreciated. And the performances of the two leads are just amazing throughout. What did you think of it, David?
Yeah, I found this to be a really interesting film. And one of the things I really loved about this film was that it didn't go out of the way to explain everything to its audience either. A few people that I know who were at the same screening as us turned around afterwards and asked what happened because Charlotte Wells has a very interesting way during this film of showing what is happening with Callum. I actually think that if you're someone who suffers from depression yourself, or you know someone who suffers from depression, you will get a lot more out of this film because there are moments in this film where you can tell that Callum's going through depression if you know to look for. Like you said to me when we were talking about the film afterwards, that there's a moment where Callum walks across a road and a bus beeps him because he's
Yeah.
walked right out in front of it and he doesn't care. Um, Charlotte Wells does those little things all the way through this film. There's nothing in there that completely signposts it and says, "Hey, Callum is suffering from depression." It's all these little things that happen all the way through the film that kind of that tells you that this is what's going on if you know where to look for it. There's some incredibly artistic scenes in this film as well, and they're the ones that seem to be confusing people out there because
Hmm.
what they do is there's scenes where it shows the adult Sophie with Callum and he's kind of pushing her away or ignoring her, and it feels like some people out there haven't really got a handle on what those scenes are about. But for those that do understand what is going on in this film, it's an amazing film. It's got such a natural dialogue. I couldn't believe just how well this film came together. The one thing I wanted to ask you about, though, is of course, Paul Mescal has got an Oscar nomination for this film, but young Frankie Carrillo, this is her first acting role, and she is completely thrown into the deep end with this film. There's moments of intimacy there as her character comes of age. What did you think of her performance?
She was great in it as well. Like it's really amazing that for somebody who really, other than I believe a short film, she hasn't got anything else to her name, and in she's managed to turn in a performance in this movie that really like it's amazing that with Charlotte Wells' debut feature, we're already seeing that the lead actor has earned an Oscar nomination, but like we left thinking that the lead actress should have gotten an Oscar nomination as well, because yeah, it so much of the film is shown from her perspective, and it's 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 kind of awkward to watch at times because, as you say, like if you're somebody that's been through depression or has dealt with somebody with depression, you can tell that Paul Mescal's character Callum has deep problems, and he really does have a lot of things going on. Whereas uh, uh the child character Sophie, like she's a lot of it is going over her head, and it's it's almost like it's heartbreaking in a very subtle way to see Callum almost seeing certain parts of himself, his own uh the depression that he's going through, and being able to see that in his daughter, and just his reactions to that. And it's all, again, it's all stuff that goes over Sophie's head, but we the audience watch it and know it's like, yeah, things aren't okay. This is really bad, what's going on here. And it was great. Frankie Corio did such an amazing job in this movie.
Yeah, I would almost argue that Charlotte Wells deserved an Oscar nomination for
Mm,
this film as well. Maybe not for Best Director, although that would have been well rewarding as well, but certainly for Best Screenplay. Because, like I
definitely.
said just before, the screenplay of this is just absolutely amazing. Because I was wondering whether a lot of this film was actually ad-libbed, and it wasn't. It's all there in the screenplay. So you've got this amazing young filmmaker who has just exploded onto the scene with a film that's so well written that she's earned her leading actor an Oscar nomination. So it feels kind of wrong that she hasn't got one either for best director or for best
Screenplay.
screenplay.
Yeah.
The other thing that also shines out about this film as well is the soundtrack.
Mm.
Very often directors and filmmakers, when they're putting together a soundtrack, don't take general life into consideration when they start to put the soundtrack together. And one of the things I loved about this soundtrack was that it's very, very quickly established that Callum has a love for alternative music. So there's songs in there from Blur, there's songs in there from Catatonia, Brand Van 3000, like you just heard.
Mm.
But at the same time, Charlotte Wells realizes that that's not the kind of music that everybody would have been listening to at that time. So you see the other resort guests listening to things like Aqua, All Saints, and even the Macarena gets thrown
Of
in there at
course.
one point as well,
Yeah.
which completely matches because I'm pretty sure at that time at resorts right around the world, the Macarena would have been the track that they were putting on to get everybody up and dancing.
Mid 90s, yeah, every single resort, every party was playing the Macarena.
Yeah, and so I think that's another part of what really, really works with this film. You and I saw this at a private screening, and as soon as you got off the train that night, I think I reached into Spotify and tried to find if the soundtrack was on there, and it was, and I was listening to it the rest of the way home. So that's how good the soundtrack is. And we're actually going to take a listen to another song off the soundtrack in just a moment. A song from a band called Catatonia called Road Rage that I'm sure anyone who loves 90s music would definitely know. But to wrap up this little segment on Aftersun, what are you going to give this one out of five and why?
I'm going to give this 4.5 out of 5. It's it's an incredible movie for what it does for a debut film. Again, it's so impactful in a way that you leave the cinema and you can't help but kind of look back at maybe your relationship. Well, I couldn't help but leave the cinema and kind of look back at my own relationship with my own parents at that age,
Yeah.
and to kind of see like what they would have been going through, what would have been going on in their minds. So, yeah, it's a very amazing little movie. So 4 out of 5 for me.
Yeah, I'm going a little bit higher. I'm going to give it 4.5 out of 5. I
Four and a
thought
half.
this.
Sorry, 4.5 out of 5.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
I'm giving it
But
4.5 out of 5 as well.
yeah.
I think this was a brilliantly written film. It's a
Mm,
film that for a large part of it is a two-hander. I mean, there's a few other characters that come into it at different times that Callum and Sophie interact with, but it's largely carried by those two.
mm,
It's
mm.
beautifully written and an amazing soundtrack that anybody out there who's a music lover is just absolutely going to enjoy. So yeah, I'm giving this one 4.5 out of 5. Aftersun, it's out now in select cinemas, so check cinema guides near you to see whether or not it's showing anywhere near you. And if you want more of our review, of course, go to our website at subcultureentertainment.com. But for right now, we are going to play Catatonia's Road Rage off the Aftersun soundtrack. You're listening to Central Coast Radio.